My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
This is Rob Long with Martini Shot for The Ankler. The movie Snow White is apparently not doing well, and I have zero opinions on why, and you are welcome. Now, I was mildly curious about the movie's performance. I'm in show business after all, and so I did look at the various reports about its box office take, and I'm not really much clearer on the whys than I was before, though I did learn that about 65% of movie ticket sales are in theaters in blue states, which sort of makes sense when you think about urban population areas and where they are. But that Snow White's box office seems to come more from red states than expected, which may mean that everyone who is saying the movie is too woke is wrong and that maybe it's just not woke enough. But as I said, I have no insights here because I have not seen it. Older single man going to see Snow White alone in a theater is probably not optically smart, so I'm not going to see it. And seeing it is really the only way to know why it works or why it doesn't. And we always forget that part when we start talking about box office or ratings or audience makeup. We always forget the only part that really matters, which is is it a good movie part? Is the TV show good? But what does it represent? What failure of the process when a movie or a TV show doesn't do well, or a bunch of movies from different studios seem to miss the mark? I mean, we take for granted, all of us in the entertainment industry, which now includes practically everybody and the assorted shareholders and stakeholders they're associated with, we take it all for granted that there's a system here, that there's a workflow that leads in a pretty direct line from deal memo to box office success. So when a movie doesn't work, and in Snow White's case, some live action remake, there's an urge to say, okay, well, now we know live action remakes don't work, or comedies don't work anymore. I read recently, though I'm pretty sure comedies do work. Now, what you're looking for, a very rich friend of mine told me once, is a flywheel. He made a fortune manufacturing and delivering a product that a lot of businesses need. And once he had the basic system set up, he just let the machines just go. So a flywheel, and I apologize if this is too technical, a flywheel is a heavy thingy on a machiney thing that makes it thump more regularly and with a bigger push as it goes around the machine part of the thing. And it's cool, and it makes the making part of the process much easier and more efficient. And once you get the flywheel in place, the machine just goes faster and makes more stuff. And again, apologies for the technical language. Now, the 1980s, notorious and iconic investment banker Michael Milken is said to have announced, were brought to you by Lotus 123, which will be a meaningless statement to anyone under a certain age. But what it means is this, that when computer processing power reached a certain threshold in the 1980s somewhere, and financial calculation software, that's the Lotus 123, became easy to use, complicated bond issues could be adjusted and readjusted and recalculated in seconds. So what used to take tedious hours of really hard arithmetic that somebody had to do just disappeared. In other words, what was created was a junk bond flywheel, which meant obviously more junk bonds, which meant prison, actually, but also leveraged buyouts and hostile takeovers and things like that. Or another example where nobody goes to prison, when Ray Kroc systematized the operation of a fast food restaurant, he created a hamburger and fries flywheel. Or I guess you could call it a type 2 diabetes flywheel, depending on which end of the telescope you're looking through. So clearly, flywheels themselves are, complicated, not altogether positive things. Now, the reason everybody loves a flywheel is first, money, but mostly with a flywheel, you can relax, you can trust the system, you can slowly let it all drift onto autopilot, and you can stop relying on that irritating and unreliable thing, your intuition, your taste, and you can make live action remakes and follow the workflow and just assume that that's going to make a movie that works. It's only natural that all of us in the entertainment business, actually all of us everywhere, are compelled to design and implement flywheels. I mean, for writers, sometimes it's just a trusted format. For executives, it's a process or a short list of repeated concerns that you deliver to this scriptwriter like, can she be more likable? Can this be more quirky? No, but for investors, it's where's the IP? Where's the franchise? And all of this is wishful thinking. I mean, we cling to flywheels because, okay, yes, we're a little lazy, but mostly it's because we're uncomfortable with the bedrock truth of the entertainment business, which is this: there is no way to know for sure if a movie or TV show is going to be a success. There's just no way to hedge the risk embedded in the industry. We don't get to build flywheels. We're not Ray Kroc. We're not Michael Milken. And when we try, we end up, I guess with Snow White, which again, I have not seen for perfectly understandable reasons. But the thing is, if you're a studio, you end up looking at the catalog you have and try to monetize it in 1,000 new ways. You start with the library, you start with what you own, and you try to build a flywheel to make all that material into new material. I mean, it's rational business strategy, but it's completely unreliable. What show business needs, if you really want to shake things up and get it moving again, is to free itself from the tyranny of its various libraries, to stop talking about IP all the time. What show business needs really is an IP swap. Let somebody else take a shot at the Seven Dwarfs or James Bond or, Medea. What we're talking about, I guess, is a garage sale. Sort of. Well, let me explain it to this way. The fancy term for garage sale is estate sale, and to be honest, I'm not a fan of either. Rummaging around through someone else's pile of discards, looking for a bargain or an undiscovered treasure. It's not my idea of a fun Saturday. But while I am not a person who likes to go to estate sales, I am a person, if last weekend is any indication, who needed to have one. From 9 a.m. Friday morning to 4 p.m. Sunday afternoon last weekend, I let strangers come into my living space and buy up a lot of my old stuff. I sold books and clothes and furniture and antiques and odd little items I've collected from my travels, art, wall hangings, 3 antique killums I carried back from Antalya 20 years ago, and an enormous amount of kitchen junk you would never in your wildest dreams imagine that anybody else would pay for, but they did. And not just that, old postcards, bar coasters, unused pads of paper, unwrapped notebooks, small bottles of bitters, pencils, pens, and those little Delft ceramic Dutch houses filled with gin you get if you fly business class on KLM. I had stacks of old French ceramic platters, framed menus from 1940s era Los Angeles restaurants, cufflinks, tie tacks, gloves, 6 old Barber raincoats, an Hermes scarf that somebody left at my house years ago after, I guess, a particularly unruly party, asparagus tongs, an incense burner from Yemen with Arabic script that I'm pretty sure says Death to America. And of course, there were 2 giant boxes of nothing but charger cables and connectors in every flavor of USB since 2002. And I sold it all last weekend. It would have been a very traumatic weekend, as you might have guessed. I've collected a lot of stuff over the years, and it wouldn't be unfair to say it's been unhealthy. But the good news is that if you do a little digging, you can always find someone to do the hard stuff for you. So 3 weeks ago, I forced to confront my general unwillingness to let anything go and my reflexive impulse to keep everything from the past, at which point I realized that I was living in what was essentially a museum of me. And it was time to take action, so I Googled estate sales near me, and I found a soothing and kind soul who walked through my Institute of Neurotic Acquisitions and pronounced it all very, very sellable. Even the stupid computer cables, I asked? She nodded. People, she said, will buy anything. We shook hands. And the next week, she would appear in my house with an iPad for looking up comparable prices and a sheaf of color-coded stickers and methodically set a price on nearly every single one of my possessions. And occasionally, I'd spot her assessing something that I instantly wanted to take back. No, I'm keeping that ashtray. I stole that from Alain Ducasse in Paris. And she would simply stop, hold the item up, fix me with a sad but wise expression until I took a few breaths and shrugged and said, sell it, sell it, sell it all. The day of the sale, I got up very early. I packed a weekend bag and I headed out because throughout the day, I would get text messages with photographs from sales team like, what about this? Is this for sale? And occasionally I'd have to approve a particularly lowball price. But as the total sales amount kept rising and I realized that everything, including precious memories, has a price, it actually turned out really well. Saturday and Sunday, I get my phone off. I allowed the market to do its work. Sunday night, I returned to a very dirty house because a lot of strangers walking through your place during a rainy weekend will do that, but also a pretty empty house. My footsteps made echoes. My life felt a lot lighter. The Metropolitan Museum of Me was now just like a little pocket-sized gallery, like the kind they sometimes have in a glass case at the library. I felt like I was beginning to start a new chapter, which was exactly what I want and need to do. And a friend asked, what are you going to do with all that money? And to be honest, I haven't given it much thought, but I can tell you what I'm not going to do. I am not going to start all over again, buying things and keeping things and holding on to everything. Let me put it this way. If I fly KLM again, I am going to drink that gin on the way to baggage claim and throw the little Delft house in the garbage before I get to the taxi. But that's where my estate sale and Hollywood's estate sale should differ. What they all need to do is go shopping in each other's libraries, offer up their own titles, maybe things they think are valuable, maybe things they think are a big box of cables. Make some swap deals, make some lowball offers, hold out, haggle, but refresh and reset the whole system from the IP up. They all think it's about IP. Guess what? It's really not. Now, of course, what I'm saying is crazy, but it's not more crazy than thinking that they just need to design a better flywheel. Show business works best when it's taking crazy risks, not when it's trying to figure out a safer way. And that's it for this week. Next week, we will assign credits. For The Ankler, this is Rob Long.